targets are the other feature of the Community Health Toolkit. And what targets are, you have a dashboard for the user who's using the application. And this dashboard shows them different metrics like count of the pregnancy registered in a certain month, the number of under one assessments or assessments for children under one who are sick, or the number of assessments for children under 5 who are sick, and so on. So you have the targets tab that is available and can be used to guide or to show the CHW or supervisor overseeing CHWs what the performance has been over certain periods of time. And as you can see there are different types of target widgets that look different, not just the icon or the titles, but even the features that they have are slightly different. So they provide a quick summary of the progress towards individual goals or goals of a specific group of CHWs in the case of a supervisor who's looking at targets within the area that they supervise. It could also be used by nurses or facility-based users who directly interact with community health workers who are in the field. And as I mentioned, we have different types of widgets. You could have two broad categories where you have your count widgets showing a tally of a particular report that has been submitted or data within a report that matches a set criteria. And the count widget looks like what is at the top there, where you have pregnancy registered. And then you could have percentage widgets that display a ratio, which helps provide insight into the proportion that matches a defined criteria. So with the percent widget, you will have what you're seeing here, which is a ratio of what has been covered and what's left to be covered. But then something else you'll see is a goal, and goals can be set for either of these widgets. You'll have, for the count widget, the goal appearing there, which is 4. And once the goal has been achieved and exceeded, achieved or exceeded, the color changes from red to green. Similar case here, once the goal is achieved, it changes from red to green. And that indicates how well the user is doing on a particular metric, or how well that metric is being achieved. Similar to tasks, we also have a targets schema, and we have targets.js file where you define your targets. And again, similar to tasks, we have a separate file where you can write your functions, and that's the targets extras.js file, where you write any additional functions that you need to define your targets. So here we have a summary of the target properties that are commonly used. As I mentioned before, even with the tasks, there are additional properties that you could have. I've just picked a few common ones that we can mention or talk about a bit. We have the identifier of the target, which is the ID property. You could also have an icon that is shown alongside the target. You have your translation key, as I mentioned, something that's representative of the title of this target and will be substituted with the actual value of the title in the application. Right. And then you have your type, which could be count or percent, which we've just talked about. And then you could have your goal. And in the goal, if you don't have, or if you don't want to show any specific goal that's perhaps above 0, or any goal that has been set for that metric, you could put -1. And that way no goal will be shown in that widget, which is something that could happen in cases where you don't have a specific goal For example, if you want to register households and you don't need to have a goal for that, but you would like to see how many households have been registered within a particular place. Then we have applies to, which is whether you want to count reports or contacts. And this is similar to something we've previously talked about. And so for each contact, you could check a certain condition and then count up, or for each report, you could check a certain condition and then count up. So the first thing you'd be setting is whether you want to count up for contacts or for reports. And then you could have other properties that then check for certain conditions. Otherwise, if you just want to count up reports or count up contacts without any conditions, you just use applies to and then specify the type of contact or report you want to count up. And then finally, we have dates, which could be set to reported or to now, or could be a function. So if you're using reported, the target will count within the current month. And so you'd be getting a metric of what's available within the month that we are in. And every new month, this target would go back to 0 and start counting again. When you set it to now, it will include everything. So from the time the user began reporting, all that information will be included. Or you could set a function that could be used to indicate when the document should be counted. But the default here, if you don't set this property, the default will be reported, and it will only count within the current month. There's more available in the target schema, which is also available in the documentation site, which is docs.communityhealthtoolkit.org. There's a sample here where we have a target counting up the number of healthy deliveries within the current month. So you have your ID, birth this month, your type, which is count, your icon, infant. So here we don't have a goal, so we just set to -1. You have your translation key, which is a target's birth's title, which will be substituted with the actual title of this widget. You could have a subtitle, which would be in the subtitle translation key property, depending on how this widget has been designed. And it applies to reports, which would be the delivery reports, and applies if this function. So this is a function that's defined elsewhere, which is the target's extras. And then the date, which would be the reported, which is current month. Similarly, we have a second target that counts up the number of healthy deliveries with at least one ANC visit. And the difference here, you can see the goal is 100. So this will have a goal of 100. And you also see passes if, which is a certain condition for checking for each of these reports, does it meet this condition? And if it does, then only count up when that condition is met or when that evaluates to true. So here you're checking if the number of visits for each delivery form or for each person delivered or baby delivered, the mother went for at least one visit, one or more visits. And date is over all time.